It'll be just a few minutes for the sessions.
Sorry.
Steve, if you don't get an award for best jacket at a virtual conference, I don't know.
All right, Richard, I started the Biamp room, so whoever's host.
I'm in the Biamp room. A couple of years ago.
You're it?
Yeah.
All right, making you host.
Looking online and it's like, oh, got a smoking jackets for the same price as let's see.
Hello. Hold on while I fix my camera. Hopefully you can all hear me. So first and foremost, this is going to be a little interactive. Hopefully everyone on the East Coast has had their lunch or is eating it right now. But let's go ahead. I'm going to share my some of my slides here.
Is anybody else coming? Do you need me to make anybody else co-host or anything?
Just me. It's
Cool.
the Richard Mitchell show today.
Sounds good.
Advanced portion of my screen share. All right. Whoop. All right. Hopefully you see what I am sharing. Okay, I'm getting a head nod.
Yes,
There.
you got it.
All right. So first and foremost, thank you so much for joining this session. It's going to be short and sweet, but hopefully we're going to open it up for a lot of questions, thoughts, and things that I can throw back at our product managers and our engineering, et cetera, et cetera. But I am Richard Mitchell. I have been in higher education, the higher education segment for 18 plus years at various universities. I joke that I started north and just keep moving south, and eventually I will end up in retirement working at a university in Florida. But 12 years of AV specific experience, and my last in my last role, I was a senior AV design engineer at a large dark blue university in North Carolina. My area of expertise was standards at the university, and I love the internal joke that we have at Biamp. Standards are great, except when you have a bad standard, but that's for another day. This is day 480 for me at Biamp, so I'm starting to no longer be the newest guy in the organization, but still we are expanding significantly. So and I'll be talking about that a little bit here today. Also a classic monster movie aficionado, specifically from the 60s into the early 80s. If there's a monster movie, I've probably watched it. This is our higher education team. This was us at EDUCAUSE last year. And, you know, I am the East Coast. Hooper is the Central, and Shirley is our West Coast gal. And I think we legitimately have one of the strongest higher education teams. We all work off each other incredibly well. Also, my background with having been in higher education helps with a lot of the projects, because I think we have a very deep understanding of how the universities work overall and how every university is incredibly unique in what they do. Also, the one thing I really liked when I joined Biamp was specifically that we really have a layered approach when we're engaging with individuals. There's for any university, this section in particular is for folks in North Carolina. You can always interact with me. I love to be able to pull levers within Biamp to make things work. I have a really deep appreciation for the difference between a core classroom being down and a conference room being down. One is bad and the other can be a career-ending situation. So I have a lot of universities, one just this week, in fact, that had a challenge with the device and we were able to pull some levers and make everyone the hero. And that's one of my roles. But when I'm not available, again, I'm for the entire East. We have a regional individual that can work directly with you as well to get a project or a piece of hardware that you want to test or experiment with, et cetera. And then we have field engineers all throughout the United States that love to come on site, provide trainings. They're also the great people that you want to have a quick conversation with about, hey, we know this isn't like a problem per se, but can a piece of hardware do X, Y, and Z? These are the folks that can really do a deep dive at the kind of ones and zeros level and get you answers really quickly. So again, we have a very layered approach to how we support all of the people in the United States. The coolest thing about Biamp is, you know, people keep saying supply chain, supply chain, supply chain. Biamp's kind of at the point where it's like, it's not really, I mean, it's an issue for everyone, but we, at our worst, we had a 5-month delay window, and now 95% or more of all of our hardware is shipping. So I think we've got the best story in AV at the moment. And I think it's primarily due to the fact that we manufacture a lot of our hardware in the United States whenever we can. That's our goal, is to manufacture it here. And then when it doesn't make financial sense, we make the decision to make it elsewhere. But we kind of have an American focus when it comes to our products. And I think we were able to manufacture we just had to fly the chips in, and we started manufacturing up in Beaverton, where other people had a wide range of logistical problems that we simply didn't face. And again, we're really proud of that. If you go to our 201 kind of new training that we're offering, you get to tour the Beaverton, Oregon manufacturing location. We also have a location where we build speakers in the United States. So for those large stadium projects, yes, we still have people that are, it really feels like a furniture factory, honestly, with, you know, kind of a more traditional technology of building these large arrays that are all throughout high school, college, sports stadiums, and including a number of larger stadiums as well. Now, I could go through the nuts and bolts of every single product that we're kind of coming out with, but honestly, a lot of them don't specifically to apply directly to higher education. So I've kind of whittled it down into a more manageable things that are going on within Biamp. When we had to pivot to get product shipping, we used a lot of our resources really trying to get our products out the door that were existing. So we had to take a breath from really innovating heavily. But about 6 to 12 months ago, we were able to pivot and kind of move forward in many ways. So just now we're starting to see the true innovation that's coming out of Biamp, which we're incredibly excited about. So really Biamp is kind of known for the core DSP, mics, et cetera, which we have done incredibly well over the history of Biamp. But over the last 4 years, we've added on a wide array of multiple companies that we've acquired, and we've grown internally to where our product portfolio is nearly double what it was just 4 years ago. Also, for speakers, we really didn't have any speakers, you know, 4 years ago. Now, with the acquisition of Community and a number of other companies, we have over 480 SKUs of speakers. So if there's a speaker option, whether it needs to be high quality or cost effective, et cetera, we just have a wide range of options out there. Cool new things that we've recently announced. One, we have partnered with Netgear on an ABB switch. So that will be coming out here in short order in the next month or so. And it's a basic, 8-port switch that will let you do ABB really effectively. Obviously, we can do that on kind of a smaller scale. But once you start getting into these conference rooms and small learning spaces, larger learning spaces, those network ports kind of start getting gobbled up rather quickly. So we knew we wanted to partner with somebody that could really nail the ABB component of this and have the engineering chops to be able to respond to issues that we might have in the future. So we selected Netgear, and we're pretty excited about this. If you haven't heard about our soundbar, I think it is a bit of a game changer. Everybody's got a soundbar. I can completely appreciate that. I think ours, one, it sounds fantastic. Two, the mic array that is built into it is significantly different than, I would say, a vast majority of the soundbars out there. You may see soundbars with 3, 4, 5, 6 mic elements inside of them. That's great. Ours has 27 mic elements built into it, built into a horizontal and vertical array. So it just is able to perform well in spaces that traditionally a soundbar wouldn't have sounded so well, specifically those spaces where it's like most of the soundbars out there sound pretty good in a small conference room, but once you get into a mid-sized conference room, et cetera, that's where a lot of them start to degrade pretty significantly. We're seeing ours deployed in spaces of 18, 20, 21 feet. If the acoustics are great in the space, even beyond that, just based on the array. And the other really cool thing associated with our soundbar is the voice filter. Again, it's like magic, where a lot of the feedback I received from faculty was, in these conference rooms or small learning spaces, I can hear the students eating, I can hear the door slamming, I can hear all these noises they don't want to hear. Our voice filter, which is automatic, you just push a button and it will tune to the room, will filter all of those sounds out, including obviously HVAC noise, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just a game changer, specifically those potato chip bag crinkling or keyboard clacking. It just filters it all out. And that technology is something that is homegrown to Biamp and is changing the way that a lot of these spaces simply sound. And we just introduced an ALS port on the back of it for those that are looking for something that needs, hearing assist, or they want to stretch the way that this output might be used. So again, we're trying to be understanding of the wide needs of our community. And I thought this in particular touched on our commitment to, hearing assist, and also to offering a more approachable device for some of these spaces. And because of that really cool sound filter technology being part of what we do, we're now introducing that voice filter into our launch products in the Tessera Forte X. So soon in a classroom near you, you may be able to hit a button, tune the room automatically, and have the voice filter just enabled out of the gate. Again, a lot of the complaints I got were from faculty that were remote, hearing those doors slamming, the noises, or the lawn crew rolling through just at the worst moment. And this will eliminate that. If you haven't heard the technology, please reach out. I would love to do a demonstration of how that works. So Biamp is also jumping into control. We acquired a company, Neat, about a year ago. And our goal was to kind of transform the way that we look at programming. Biamp is actually very interested in that center segment. We don't want to go after the exotic, the infinitely programmable, infinitely complex spaces. I think that segment is completely full. And when you get into extremely advanced spaces, I think you've got plenty of options in that regard. Where we saw a bit of a gap was in easily configurable systems where you could have I would say, mid-level IT individual that takes about a day to learn our software environment, and they're building out classrooms or small meeting spaces. We wanted this to be also something where you weren't dependent upon one person within your organization being the holder of all the code. Our environment really allows more, I would say, entry-level, mid-level AV technicians to get their hands kind of into that programming. It's not even programming, it's really drag and drop configuration type classrooms. And we definitely felt that there was a need there where, obviously you don't want to remote control in the space because it would immediately go away. But there's something where, if a projector needs to be swapped out, it shouldn't take an act of Congress to get in there, swap out a driver and reload the program, and do that in a matter of minutes, not days, not who has the code, who's going to be responsible for this. We really wanted a solution that is just so much more flexible and enables more people to do more within their own learning spaces. The devices I'm most interested in are our Touch 8i, which is all it has on the back of it is a network port, and it can communicate to all of your devices that you need connected to within your learning space. A lot of people are immediately going to say, well, that's great, but not everything is network. We thought of that, and at ISE, we announced this device as well that will allow you to connect one of these to your projector screens, get them going up and down, IR, if you still need IR, that's great. This is our new device that will communicate within that ecosystem to control all of the real world things that we need to control. Obviously, this is a big family of products, but it's all under one kind of software suite to manage everything. And it is, anything from a small button pusher all the way up to a full 1U control system with dozens of IO. We have those. But again, we are not trying to go for the infinitely complex, infinitely programmable. We're really going for, 1, 2, 3 screens, screen up, screen down, projectors on, projectors off, camera control, a couple of other things, and that's really it. I mean, we're looking at the essence of where we see classroom technology going. And I think in many spaces, it's moving in that direction. Obviously, not all of them. I mean, there are still very complex spaces where there are other solutions out there for that. But what we're going after is that kind of core classroom that you just want to be able to program in a couple of hours, learn the environment within a couple of hours in your building rooms and ready to go. Or getting student workers to come in and build rooms, which, before our product came through, I've gone to some other manufacturers' trainings. They're 4 or 5 days. You may be able to program a room after the first class, probably not. You go to the 2 series classes and it's a bit of a rabbit hole. Because we've really kind of defined our product, it's very approachable. If you've ever used Microsoft Office, you feel at home with our environment. It's drag and drop. And it kind of looks like this. You're literally dragging on our processors. You're dragging on the projectors that you have. It will automatically kind of guess how you're going to set this configuration up. And then let's say you want to control your projector over Ethernet versus RS-232. You can just make those quick adjustments within it. It's in a matter of, again, 40, 50 minutes, you get the base kind of system configured, and then you're able to move on to an interface if there is one, the functions associated with that, and then the feedback, if you have feedback, and then you just load it onto the system. And it's Biamp, so you can also pull that program off of the system, make a quick modification, put it right back up, and you're ready to go. It's a single file. It's not a scatter shot of dozens of files that you have to make sure that you've got every single file or it's not going to work. It's very forgiving for kind of new to mid-tier technicians that want to get into owning their ecosystem a bit more. This was exciting for me because I hated, when I was in higher education, I hated cutting holes for speakers. We came out with our first 2x2 speaker. it is geared toward kind of the voice communication segment out of the gate. So I'm excited to see where we go with additional options as we move forward. But again, I loved 2x2s just because they're easy to slot in. Oh, we want to move it, no problem. Just move the tiles around within the learning space and you're good to go. But again, a really cool feature that we're starting to jump into that segment. People loved our CIC6 speakers because you can just, within our ecosystem, you just plug an RJ45 cable into it and it does everything you need it to. The number one problem was always, yeah, that's great, but we've got a hard ceiling and we only have 4.5 inches of space above the ceiling to mount these. We just came out with a low profile version of it. This is a thing that I wish we Biamp would have had when I was back slinging or building classrooms. It's just a very versatile, it's slightly larger to get the same sound profile of the previous generation. So it's making up for that lower depth by making the hole slightly larger. Same RJ45 connection. You can also have a block if you want to run analog into it. But again, really cool device that we're having. And it's just going to make a lot of these installations just that much easier when you can run a RJ45 cable to it. Amps, of course, we're by amp. The amp is in the core of what we do, and we have a wide range of options out there. We've always had incredibly high quality amps at the high end of the spectrum, and we also have amps specifically designed for like auditoriums, stadiums, etc. And then we have our backpack amps, which kind of fill in that bottom segment, but we've never really had something more in the middle, kind of a classroom option. And recently we are working with kind of a world-renowned amp designer, and he has designed 4 amps for us for our initial kind of introduction. And these are just going to be really flexible for classroom spaces where you're kind of maybe mixing and matching a little bit in terms of the type of output that you need. And so this is, again, it's an analog amp, but it's just going to be incredibly flexible when you get into that space where we assume that these are 70 volt amps and they're not, or 70 volt speakers, but they're not. We need to get a different amp. Ours is flexible enough to be able to do low and high impedance at the same time. So I think this is going to be just a big win for education spaces where there may have been a little bit of a gap in our offerings, and this is going to fill that in incredibly nice. Launch received an update last year. I don't know how many of you are using Launch, but it's one of those things where you connect the speakers, you connect the mics, you connect it to the DSP, you hit a button with a Tessera Forte X and it will tune the room. And that was great, but we had a lot of people that said, okay, so what did it do? And now with our 2.0 version within the Tessera Forte X, it will actually give you kind of a scorecard and details associated with the retuning of that space. And in a lot of situations where they don't want to run Launch, they actually want to run a traditional configuration, they'll run Launch just to get all the metrics associated with the space. Then they'll program their kind of more manual configuration and then use the specifications from the Launch information to dial their room in to sound perfect. So Launch received an update. We are very excited about that. Getting toward the end of the list, I think we also acknowledged that we needed kind of a UC engine, and we started looking down the path of building our own. That could be a challenge. So we actually partnered with Lenovo, and we're kind of coming together with this unified device that will be very compatible with a lot of our options coming down the road. So my number one complaint when I was dealing with other UC devices where they weren't really designed for the enterprise or higher education networks, which demand there's a higher level or a higher bar in terms of security and things that you really need to check all those boxes. One, a lot of devices weren't like that. Two, a lot of them were more consumer grade in terms of the actual build quality of the device. They might have a fan that would fail, or a lot of things that would be rather obvious in an enterprise environment. We have thought and worked a lot with them to ensure that this device will meet a wide range of needs. No fan. It is designed to be slapped behind a display that will get a higher temperature than it might in a different environment, et cetera. So we're incredibly excited about that. Again, we have so many speakers, it's ridiculous. We were in a training just last week where our product people were talking about the different types of speakers, and we have so many categories. So if there's ever a need, please reach out. We're always happy to chat about the wide range. Like, who knew that Duke University has a marine lab, and the speakers that they have on the outside of that marine lab last about a year. Well, we have marine level speakers, and we're always happy to chat about that. Would say, I think the one thing that our higher education team really understands, that a lot of people view higher education as like everyone's in one big happy family at the university, and that could be true, but we also can appreciate that the universities have a lot of independent groups within them. Some people say siloed, but that's not really what I'm talking about. More as though we have a deep appreciation for how the universities work, and we always want to work with you whenever there's an opportunity to do that. We also, I think there's a slow transition within higher education where, this is kind of the more traditional way of people viewing it, where we had our higher education institutions. They worked primarily with an integrator that would ultimately work with Biamp to acquire hardware. And now we're starting to see it more like this, where the universities really want a deep relationship with the hardware manufacturers and their integrators, so that when a challenge comes, we're able to resolve it in a much speedier way than historically was true. And I'm seeing this, just today, I probably have 15 text messages from higher education institutions that are asking generalized questions about products and applications. What have you seen in X, Y, and Z kind of podium? And I love receiving those messages. And that's the relationship I think everybody wants when they're working with a hardware manufacturer. And that is kind of all I have for you today. Questions, comments? I would be happy to answer whatever I can answer. No questions. Perfect presentation. Oh, Hooper, you were able to make it. Awesome.
Yeah, sorry, I had a little emergency I had to take care of this morning. I am also on hotel internet, so I have no idea how well this is working.
So,
Great presentation, though. Awesome. Fantastic
Oh,
job. I missed the intro. So sorry.
It was fantastic.
There was a couple
there were a few questions. I think I got them answered. The one that I don't know specifically is regarding the API for the GPIO box, because it's a new product and I have not played too much with the control platform. I know that there's metadata that we can basically write code for any of our devices through the NEATS software platform that we call Project Designer. However, I'm not a control programmer, so I don't want to overpromise. I'd really like to just get the box in your hand.
What was the question? I actually done a bit
Terry,
of a deep dive.
Jump in.
Yeah, I was wondering
in your language.
We've had a need for non-Crestron device extenders for relay before, and I know there's other products out there, but I do like Biamp. You guys are reliable, so just wondering if that might be a possibility of using that box as an extension for a different brand control system. It would just need a good API potentially.
Yeah, I think that's an internal conversation that's actually happening right now. This product was literally just announced a couple of weeks ago, so we have like beautifully 3D printed models of what it will look like, but the final product will be in our hands in a matter of weeks. So I think we're going to get additional information associated with that.
Yeah, let me know. Ashley is our rep too, so if you want to bring him.
Oh,
in.
I'm sorry. Sorry to hear that. He's fantastic. I love Ashley. Perfect presentation. Wow. Hooper, there's again, when I was making this deck, there were so many things that are coming out at Biamp. And like I said, we've literally grown twice as large in the last 4 years. So it's a great time to be at Biamp.
I noticed there was definitely a lack of gifts. You should have had more explosions and dinosaurs.
There's always one.
Always, sorry, that's me.
I actually had a question on on the Tessera Forte X products. Do they support AVB on all 5 of the network ports on them?
On 4 of them.
The ones
One's
with PoE?
Yeah.
The
So
ones with PoE are the AVB ports, and then the port 1 can only be control?
correct.
You can have AVB on all 5 of the ports if you do the converged network. So AVB and control on the same network, we'll put AVB on all 5 ports. Typically, port 1 is just going to be for control, and everything else is going to be for AVB and Dante media. But you can put Dante on 1. Really, you've got the option in the software to go to the port management tab. Excuse me. And kind of assign whatever you want across whatever port.
Tim, we know you have questions.
Well, yeah, I know. I've been just sitting quietly over here absorbing all the information, Richard. Yeah. So
Like the fire hose, yeah.
yeah. Well, and I'm not the audio engineer, so I'm the one that's got to take all the information back to my sound guy. And we've been very happy with Biamp as our standard DSP. So it's my I don't really have questions just so much as we're just eager to continue our relationship. So.
Aaron, that last post was for you. That'll just send you to the Cornerstone article about the ports, so you can see the default setup and then how you can modify them.
Ooh.
The only real limitation is that only ports 2 through 5 have PoE. Port 1
Right,
does
yeah, I
not
knew
have
that.
PoE. So everything else can be modified. I think with the exception of maybe VoIP, if you're using VoIP, we really want you to dedicate that to port 2 for some reason. I don't think that can be switched over to another port, but then again, in this day and age, VoIP is dying in favor of the UC codec.
I actually have an outstanding VoIP question through our rep. I work for MechDyn, and so Ward Wasmer is our rep.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And so we have a client that's going to be switching from a standard Cisco call manager to a cloud-based Cisco system, and we are going to probably need some help with that, but that's a very strange case. So yeah,
We love strange cases.
yes, do we?
Do you know which cloud provider they're going to be jumping to?
I don't off the top of my head. I don't think we have that from our client. I know they have a bunch of Cisco WebEx units, so it probably will be still something Cisco. But I couldn't tell you more than that right now.
So I got a question. First, I'll just echo what Chris and Tim saying. We standardize on Biamp as well, and great products. I actually have 2 old AVB VIs in my own house right now, which are great. My question is regards to this jackhammer noise compensator. What other kind of noise compensators are we coming out with now?
I can send you a
with my
video.
parlay.
We have an entire Biamp band featuring a kazoo, a tambourine, a guitar, a drum, all while somebody in the back of the room is talking, and you actually get to hear the person in the back of the room talk while everybody is playing their terrible instruments. So
I'll just add to that. That filter is unique because it's specifically trying to determine human voice is really what's going on. And the way it was described to me is, we used a kind of a supercomputer in South Korea and came up with an algorithm to allow us to feed sounds that we wanted the filter to pass human voice. And then we had sounds that we didn't want to be passed. So they fed it all these other sounds. And then every couple of weeks, it will come out with a new algorithm that we can then take and apply to the soundbar. So, when we were in the beta area, it was good, but there was still kind of little glitches and issues that would happen. And then we came out with the 1.0 firmware, which significantly improved all of the sound that was being filtered. And then recently we came out with a new version, or a kind of a upgrade to even that. So it just keeps improving. And it's now to the point where when I hear things like lawnmowers driving by or, outside the window, I'm like, they need a voice filter on this thing.
Is that something that will be available on like normal Tessera boxes as well?
So it's coming out in launch for the Tessera Forte X, and we're currently experimenting with the possibility of adding it as maybe a block in the future. It'll probably be kind of locked into the Tessera Forte X line, simply because it requires a rather significant amount of control or processing to make that work. Yeah,
I just know I've got clients that have 8, 9, 10-year-old servers out there that I think would utilize it.
Yeah, maybe it'll make it to a server card, but it again, this standard Tessera Forte most likely won't be receiving that.
So the last I heard, we are going to be modifying that algorithm to make it available for Forte, but I don't think that it's going to be as robust.
Yeah.
Just because of the dedicated chipsets that we have for processing that algorithm.
Yeah, if you guys haven't, if the rest of the people on the call haven't seen that thing, you should get your hands on one because they're really cool.
In fact, I've recently loaned my 2 units out, and one of the schools was like, "I'm not giving it back." And I'm like, "Okay." So I might have to Mission Impossible sneak in during the evening and recover it.
That's how all my demos go. I never get a demo back, so we just send POs instead.
Yeah, you're not getting ours back.
Thanks.
Well, the voice filter thing is amazing and really sets it apart, but it also sounds great. Like one of the other sound bars out there, it's fine for human voice, but once in a while you're going to play music through this thing, and some of the others just have like 0 low end to them, and ours actually has a nice bit of low end to it, and it gets nice and loud. So
anybody want this demo? This is Shirley.
Hey, Frank, I'll take that.
This is going back.
I need one.
Okay, Frank.
Ship it over.
If anyone does
Don't
need
give it back to Shirley.
they can borrow it. Not a problem.
Shirley, I didn't even know you were on the call.
I was quietly listening. You did an awesome job, and we definitely appreciate everyone joining this call and sharing their feedback. We always love hearing your thoughts and feedback anytime with regards to our products. We definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, I wish I had more questions. I don't usually have a problem with the products of yours that I use. So it's like, yeah, and I mean, yeah, I don't know what else to say than that. So.
I say this quite frequently when I'm, engaging with the university. Please don't ever suffer in silence. That's the worst thing for me is when I walk into a university and we have a great conversation and they're like, "Gee, we've got this problem and we haven't been able to get any resolution to it." It's like, let us know. We can't fix what we don't know. And just like, I was in the classroom, it would break my heart at the end of a semester, you'd get feedback and it would be, this classroom never worked. It's like, well, did you ever put a ticket in, or did you let us know about it? And it's like, well, no, I just never used the projector because I didn't think it worked. And I'm like, the projector definitely worked. So please, if there's ever a situation where you need us to pull a lever or help you out in any way, I think the 3 higher education people, we're all in lockstep in terms of the support we have come to expect to provide. So if you ever need anything, demonstrations, a loaner piece of equipment, please let us know, because I think there's nothing more that I like than going out and engaging with the folks that are managing these universities' AV systems. So with that, I think we're gonna shut this party down. How about that?
Bye, guys. We'll see you in the main lobby.
Thanks very much.
So yeah.
Take care, everyone.